All right, Pet Man, Met Mark, Carolina Varsity, Week 8 games. Here we go. First off, starting off with the Battle of Allegheny. We got the Berry Cardinals making that short trip down Allegheny to take on the Harding Rams. Key for Berry in this one, seeing them earlier this season, is defense. I think they did a good job holding Concord to 17 points last week. Still, on offense, they have some ability. They didn't get on the scoreboard against Concord. But defense will keep them in the game and give them a chance here. For Harding, obviously with the coaching change, don't know how much you can put in differently in a short period of time, but obviously you're going to see some different things from them than you might see on film. I think they're going to be, fired up. I think after a coaching change, it's going to be hard to you don't see it in high school very often. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they react, but I think they'll be fired up. They'll be ready to go. It is a bit of a rivalry. Harding did win big last year, obviously with the kind of team they had. But it is the Battle of Allegheny. There is a trophy that goes into it, and I think both teams will be fired up, and I think you'll probably see a pretty good game. All right, next game has got East Meck going on the road to take on Garinger, and for East Meck here. They lost by 10 to Independence last week, 27-17, showing some signs of improvement. They got the offense going a little bit. And then defensively, holding Independence down to 27, I think it's an okay effort. I think here in this one, you've got to be able to control the Garinger quarterback, Antonio Smith. He's more of a dual threat kid. He can really run the ball well, and Garinger has been using him in that kind of fashion to really get their offense going. So you have to control him, know where he is at all times, and then be disciplined if they're running the zone read or you're rushing the passer and keeping contained in the pocket, things of that nature. Conversely, for Garinger, last week they had a tough loss at home to Hickory Ridge. They were in that game. I believe it was 14-7 in the third quarter, and they've been in a few games against, reputable teams, but I think it is, they still have some number situation. I think they get a little bit worn down, and they can't finish the deal. So, in a game like this against East Meck, I think both teams feel like they can win it. Garinger has to get up and get a lead, and then play with confidence and hold that lead and then get to the fourth quarter and then try to build on it with a knockout punch. Hopefully there'll be some good fans there. I think Garinger has, made some vast improvements under Coach Caldwell, and we hope for a good ball game this week. All right, our next game, we got Hickory Ridge going on the road to take on Rocky River, and I think these teams are pretty much on the same level right now. Hickory Ridge coming off a win, of course, at Garinger last week. And then Rocky River coming off a tough loss at Myers Park, with no shame in that with the way the Mustangs have been going. For Hickory Ridge, it always starts, up front, being physical, getting the offense going. And one of the things Coach Sam Griner said was getting off to a better start. He said they had a slow start last week against Garinger, so they want to get out the gates fast and, really get things going on both sides of the ball here. Conversely, for Rocky River, they've kind of had these kind of games before where they had, a tough loss. Like earlier this season, they had the tough loss to Vance, and they bounced back with a home game against North Meck, and they were very competitive. So I think here, it's the same thing. You've been down this road before, coming off a big loss, coming back, got to bounce back. You're at home in front of your fans. Confidence has got to be up. And, this is an important conference game right here. And this is an important game for the playoffs because I think either one of these teams still have aspirations for a number or a wild card, I should say now, wild card seed for the playoffs. And every win you get in conference helps you in that regard. So this is a huge game for both teams here. All right, our next game, we got Hopewell going on the road to take on North Meck. This is a northern Mecklenburg County conference matchup in the IMEC. Hopewell last week had a tough one going against Vance at home, and then North Meck also had a tough loss against West Charlotte. So both of these teams coming off tough losses, kind of in different fashions, but still they're trying to bounce back here. The key for Hopewell here, when you're playing a North Meck team, they've lost 2 in a row. They're at home. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be probably a little angry. So, you got to match the emotion, from the start. Play with confidence. Get back to doing what you do best, which is on offense, spreading it out, getting the ball in those receivers' hands, letting them make plays. Conversely, for North Meck, I think you got to get back to what you do best. And for North Meck, that's getting the ball in Aaron Scott's hands and letting him be creative. Those guys, they have some guys going both ways. And, I don't know if they're getting a little worn down or if they're just facing good quality competition. We say the IMEC is like the SEC. And it's living up to that billing. I mean, losing to Mooresville and West Charlotte the last 2 weeks, they're both 5-1 right now. I mean, you really can't be too disappointed with that. But I think this week against Hopewell, you got to get out early, get up big, and then work some of those 2s and 3s in there. Get some depth going because you're gonna need those guys coming down the stretch here in this conference for sure. Okay, our next game we got Hough going on the road to take on Lake Norman. And Hough getting by Mooresville last week, 12-7. A win is a win. It wasn't pretty. They didn't play well, especially on offense. I think the defense played well. So obviously in this game, you want to get Kanique Bonner Stewart going in the passing game. He had a couple big throws. He had the big touchdown run at the end of the third quarter, but you want to get that timing down in that offense going, get that efficiency going, throwing the football, because you're going to need that definitely coming up here pretty soon. For Lake Norman, Lake Norman's coming off a tough loss at Mallard Creek. I will throw in that the Lake Norman JVs did beat Mallard Creek's JVs, which was eye-opening. It was a shortened game, but still, that was a big win for their program overall. But obviously their key here is you got to find something to move the ball against that defense. And Mooresville scored off a screen pass. So, that's the kind of things you're looking for. You're looking for the stuff to use that aggressiveness against them, inside traps, draws, screens, getting the quarterback out the pocket, stuff like that. You got to show them a lot of different looks and then, try to capitalize when they make mistakes. All right, we got a big game here. We got Mallard Creek coming off the big win over Lake Norman, going on the road down Beatty's Ford to take on West Charlotte. Mallard Creek, of course, is undefeated this year, and West Charlotte is 5-1. You could say this is probably the biggest game on West Charlotte's campus in a few years, for sure here. You look at Mallard Creek, you're coming into this game. They gave the quarterback Kelly off last week and played Jaden Washington to get him some, reps and everything. So I'm assuming Kelly will be back in the fold this week. I think, you got a team with West Charlotte. They're going to be really fired up, and maybe, you might have the old West Charlotte fans there. Hopefully you do, because when that place is full, it's a great atmosphere. But you got to just establish who you are. Come out and dominate at the line of scrimmage. Get that run game going. And then you wear West Charlotte down. Mallard Creek does have the numbers advantage here. And I think even you may look at going at some quick tempo to take advantage of that. Conversely, for West Charlotte here, these guys are a gritty, tough football team led by Coach Harris. And, that win against North Meck last week reflected that 20-14, good defense, getting enough offense, controlling the football. That's the way that they, play. That's the way they're going to win. But if they're going to have a chance here to get the upset, the offensive line is going to have to, win. And we say that every week against Mallard Creek. And we haven't seen it, just yet. But they're going to have to play, probably the best that they've played this season in order to move the football consistently down the field. And then your big playmakers have got to step up. Walker on the outside is going to have a monster game against, that Mallard Creek secondary, which is a tall order for it to happen for West Charlotte here. All right, another big game here in the IMEC. We got Mooresville coming off the loss to Hough, going on the road to take on Vance, who had a big win over Hopewell last week. All right, the key for Mooresville here: injuries. Man, they lost Connor to injury in the game after the first quarter against Hough last week. We don't get injury reports, so we don't know if he's out or if he's gonna be able to play. The big left tackle that they have, Mills, he's been out for a couple weeks. We don't know if he's going to be back to play or if he's still going to be out. If they have those guys, it's going to help their cause a ton. If they don't, they're going to have to get creative on offense and find a way to scheme guys open against a tough Vance defense. And it's a tall order, for Mooresville to do this week. Conversely, for Vance, looks like they got the offense going. They did put up 43. That was, of course, a shortened game. When you get to the 42-point mark, you got a running clock. So, they performed well, against Hopewell. And, that's what they need going forward, that offensive efficiency that Coach Brand, loves to have. Nigel Somerville throwing the football. And, in this kind of game, you saw Mooresville did a good job last week in shutting down the run against Hough. And, I think you got to come out and establish if you can run the ball early on. And if you can, then I think it's going to open up everything else that you can want to do with Vance, especially, your play action game and all that good stuff. All right, big game here in the Southwestern. We got Myers Park, undefeated, just destroying people right now, going on the road to take on Butler. And this is a traditional nemesis for Myers Park. They did get past them in the playoffs last year. But this is their first big test this year. And you look at this game right here, I think the key for Myers Park is the defense. I think you got enough on offense to know pretty much most of the time, something is going to click there because they got everything's working on real good cylinders right now offensively. So the defense is going to have to come out, and I think they have to stop the run. Butler really has a good group in the backfield, and it's really a three-headed monster when you put Christian Peters in there with Worthy and Holmes. So the biggest thing I think for Myers Park is, number one, stop the run, and then number two, get off the field on third down. If Butler's able to drive the football, it's going to keep the Myers Park offense off the field, and that's going to be the game plan that Butler is really going to be happy with. So obviously, conversely for Butler, number one, run the football, and then number two, defensively, you've got to get pressure with your down linemen, whether it's 3 or whether it's 4. Myers Park does really good spreading you with formation and then mixing the run and the pass. If they're able to get pressure with their down 3 or down 4, and they're able to cover with 7 or 8 consistently, because they're going to need that help to stop, Bowick and Muhammad and all those guys, you're going to have yourself a game there. If they're not able to get pressure with 4 and they have to send people, then you have to start, picking and choosing, and then that can get really, really risky, because you let someone go, in the coverage, and May has the time to find them, then, they're going to be dancing in the end zone on you. Be a fun game to watch down there in Matthews. All right, our next game, we got Porter Ridge going on the road to take on Independence here. And this is an interesting game here. Contrast the two styles. Porter Ridge last week, big comeback. Almost came back to put that game in overtime against Butler. They lost on the last play of the game. And you lose like that, sometimes it can bother you. It can carry over a little bit. So you can't let that game beat you twice is the main thing here for Porter Ridge. But, of course, I think they do what they do offensively. Run the football, control it, take your shots when you have chances. Conversely, for Independence, I think they have a matchup here where they could throw the football a little bit on Porter Ridge. They're coming off a win last week over East Meck, and this is a really, really big game. We talked about it earlier. Any win you get right now really helps toward playoffs, and I think for Independence, this is a game that if you get it, you're really putting yourself in a good spot to get into the playoffs. And same deal for Porter Ridge also here in this one. I think this is a sneaky good game right here. Keep your eyes on that. All right. We got South Meck going on the road to take on Ardrey Kell. And we talked about the South Meck 7 a little bit earlier this week in the best of last about how wide open it is. This is a big game, for this conference race, especially for that number 2 spot. South Meck's coming off a big win over Olympic 56-28. And they really got the offense going in that one, and that was the thing that stood out to me. They do have some guys that are capable, and if they're executed, obviously they're able to put up some points. So, I think their key against Ardrey Kell, is pretty simple. Replicate what you did last week. I mean, seeing some highlights on them, I saw Austin Greer was able to get around a little bit, get out the pocket, make some plays to his receivers downfield. And then the defense, did enough to slow that Olympic run game down, which was big. Conversely for Ardrey Kell here, they're coming off a loss to West Meck last week, 35-0. But they did beat Providence the week before, so they're 1-1 in conference. Get the ball to your guys, man. Cedric Gray, I saw he's starting to really come to his own even more at the receiver spot. Going up over people, making big catches. I saw the quarterback was featured. I think watching a little bit of film on him. I think he throws a good ball. I think he's underrated. I think you'll hear about him a little bit more going forward. And then the other thing I think is underrated is the Ardrey Kell defense. I think they did a good job, 2 weeks ago against Providence. And, if they're going to win this one, they're going to have to step up and play well here to get over the hump. This is a really, really big game in conference play. I think the winner has an inside track for that number 2 spot in the league. All right, so our last game we're going to look at is West Meck going on the road to take on Olympic. And West Meck is trucking toward a conference title right now. Big win over Ardrey Kell last week. 2-0 in conference play. They also beat Harding 2 weeks ago. And, their key here is they got to stop the run. Olympic will show you a different, variety of formations and types of run plays. And they've got to be disciplined on those looks. And, if they get too aggressive, Olympic will come back and counter you. They'll trap you. Zone read, all those kind of things. So be disciplined in your reads and your gaps, and be secure in tackles. They have a couple guys that can make plays there. Conversely for Olympic, when you play West Meck, you're going to get that spread offense. They're going to go down the field on you. You have got to be able to stop the passing game. Whether it's man or zone, you got to be able to communicate, pass guys off. Be disciplined in your reads. Don't come up on anything. Trust your eyes, and trust, what you've been taught. And you'll have a chance. But West Meck has some real guys that can go. And the other thing is you got to tackle well in space, because if you don't, you miss one tackle, they're going to go to the house on you. So once again, that's a big game in the South Meck 7 right there. All right. That is week 8 games. Go out, have some fun. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening.